So now at this point, we saw some new tests in action, but more importantly, we learned how we can split up our code so that it's easier to test. And we also learned why this is beneficial for our application itself as well. Because the code of our application is now also more granular, but therefore also often more maintainable. It's easier to manage. Of course, though, you should not overdo it. The end goal is not to have one line of code per function. That's not the goal. But splitting your code in general into standalone logical pieces is always a good idea, even if you're not testing. But if you do test, then such code becomes easier to test, and therefore your tests force you to split your code like this. And hence, combined with all the other rules and patterns I mentioned, you now have all the tools you need to write good, clean code and also good tests that test your code. Of course, what you learned before in the previous section also still applies in addition to what you learned here. Testing and writing tests is an iterative process. You're going to write more tests as your app evolves, as you come up with new scenarios, realistic scenarios that you do want to test. And as your tests evolve and as you write more tests, your main application code might also still change. So that all still applies, but combined with the rules here, you now got everything you need to write good tests. And therefore, we're now at the end of this section. And in the next section, I now want to dive into other functions like this clean numbers function and learn how we can write tests for such kind of functions and what's so special about functions like this.